All right, go for it.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Saturday. I'm still getting my screens sort of the way I like them. Give me 1 second. But today is Saturday, for April 9th, and this is our work session. So we are going to review the agenda packet for this upcoming Thursday's meeting and any other issues that we have before us that we want to bring up amongst ourselves in advance of that meeting. So let us start with, let's see here. I can give a quick heads up on what's going on with planning and zoning. We've had a couple of meetings already for the zoning code rewrite with Jesse, where we are, starting by giving Jesse sort of, we're reviewing within the existing code, giving some direction on the kind of changes that we are anticipating. And he's going to, things that we know that need to be struck wholesale or whole cloth, I think is a better way to say that. And so he's supposed to be getting us, sort of those initial thoughts gathered for planning and zoning to review at the next meeting. But it's not like a complete first draft or anything like that. It is very much a first, how do you do? Then MPCA, Nikki, do you have anything to share for MPCA?
So their website is live. So that's what they're excited about. I did talk to Abra the other evening, and they do have, we don't need to go into it or anything, but they do have a store on their website. So when we were talking about merch, that might be a good place to kind of team up and use that and show some camaraderie and, support them a little bit. But yeah, their website's up. They're still updating it, but it's a beautiful site, a lot more. I mean, they'll have their email notifications like we're about to have. So yeah, they have a lot going. They have a lot of events planned as well. Their next meeting is Wednesday, so I'll have more after that meeting as well.
All right. And then we'll just keep on rolling right to you, Nikki, for communications. What's going on with communications?
All right, so let me get to my little list. Nothing crazy. We are starting our 30-day demo for our email notification system. Again, it's got the capacity almost like a Constant Contact or MailChimp. So we'll be able to send, just kind of like our text alerts, we'll now be able to send those emails. So in the next 30 days while we are playing around with this, I mean, I might have you guys just sign up for testing and this and that, just so we can kind of test the boundaries and stuff like that. Our next meeting will probably be mid next month. Again, we need to talk about chatting for council. That should be in June. Also, our survey, I did send out another thing from Gahanna Police Department. I think it'd be awesome to add that, or some sort of type of questions like they had to our survey when we officially do it this year. Also, I think it's really important if we add some questions about the pool. Let's get some feedback. By the time this survey is out, we will be, if not halfway, but done with the pool season. It gives us a perfect opportunity to ask what they would like to see, what they thought about the change this year and stuff like that. And then the newsletter, I am going to ask Diane that she come to like every other communications to do like a newsletter report. That way it's kind of like, you know what I mean? We're teaming up and she's got more help and I can help her. And so everybody's respected with deadlines and stuff like that, which I think is really important. But that's all I have for right now.
Cool. We've got the email stuff you're talking about. What's the annual cost on that? Just to refresh my memory.
600.
Okay. And is that?
It might actually be less than that. I might be quoting high on that.
That's okay. So whatever that 600-ish is, but there's no like per use charge or anything like that, or
nope.
per the number of emails you send, no limits. It's just
Nope.
600, thank you, and have fun.
And I mean, it's set up to where, Brian, you can sign up for the newsletter. Mark can be like, no, I don't want that newsletter. However, if you have like a special update, I'd really like to receive that. So you're not slewed with all these emails. You can pick what you want.
I was just looking to make sure I had my head around the cost. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. And speaking of cost, Finance Committee is next on the agenda. Finance Committee did not meet last month. Our most recent conversations have largely been around the proposed financing, TIF revenue financing for the building, for the lakes, and potential infrastructure projects. As I said, we haven't met in the last month. There was an update that was just emailed out from Eric Fisher this morning. That was terms. How did it say it here? First, let me make sure that everybody got it. It looks like all of council was copied on an email from Eric Fisher, and it was the term sheet for the purchase of Minerva Park, Ohio. We're buying the whole village. Special Obligation Development Revenue Bond Series 2022. I will be honest and say I certainly haven't had a chance to digest this yet. I'm hoping that when Eric joins, he'll have some more information on it. But that's where Finance Committee is at the moment.
Yeah, as soon as Eric gets here, we'll have him chime in because he has quite a bit of information for all of that. And then the timeline, he should be able to go through a little bit of a timeline of what we're doing, where we are with that, and what's expected to come to you guys and when and all that. So I have most of it, but that just came to us late yesterday.
The big takeaways on it is it's an $8 million loan, 25-year repayment plan, 3.77% fixed rate interest.
Which is insanely cheap right now, considering most loans have gone drastically, and we're even Jeff Wilczek, we all know that they're going to continue to increase over the next month or two.
Yeah, we gotta jump on this, or it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah.
We're lucky it's as good as it is rate wise.
They've worked Eric has been working with a couple different people quite extensively. So, and then the other thing I was just going to tell you. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say the beautiful thing is, as they said in the training we went to, banks and stuff love lending to government, so you can get that a little bit better rate because they're like, oh, you're a government, you're going to pay us back. We know, we'll.
Right.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Eric is coming
You
in.
got your hand
Hold
up.
on, I have one question. $8 million, that seems like a lot. Do we have that allocated? Is there a reason we have to get $8 million?
Yeah, that's paying. So the background, and you guys may not be fully, this is paying off the rest of the $4 million TIF. This is for the building, and this is for other projects, including lake dredging being, in my opinion, probably council's number one thing after the building. So you have $2 or $3 million in TIF, assuming we still need a garage for, and I'm just throwing things out there, but we just did a roundabout number, paying off the TIF, the building, the lake dredging are the three main things in there. The third thing that we had talked about was more paths and walkways, maybe sidewalk, all that kind of stuff as being the last large project, but it doesn't, I don't know that it has to be that. It's, again, that's going to come to you guys, but it's so big because what we're essentially doing is paying off the TIF. So we're paying off the TIF, the building.
Paying off MI's interest in the TIF.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, just so we don't have any other outstanding obligations. Okay.
Yeah. So that is why. And Eric is here if he wants to chime in about this, or if you just kind of want to do that later. But the only other thing I was going to tell you guys is Jeff Wilczek did start our new
fiscal officer.
There you go. It's too early for this. Our new fiscal officer. It's going absolutely wonderful. No issues, no problems, and we're at week 1. So that's it.
Nice. All right, Eric, did you want to insert yourself now? We had just mentioned the email that was sent out with the terms, or did you
Yes,
want
I-
to wait? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So good morning to everyone. I just wanted to say, yeah, whenever you want to have a full discussion, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in right from the get-go. But the term sheet was sent for our discussion this morning. It is very good, and I can go into detail whenever we get to it on the agenda, now or in a few, whenever. I did run a comparison, but this one is at 3.37%, I think. Rate, you can't find others under 4, so it's phenomenally good. 25 years, 8 million as discussed. It's good. It's a really good deal. So we've got it on the agenda for Thursday, and it can go. I think it says waiving the readings. That was not the intent. I think it is the intent to run it as an emergency, which is very typical and required. And we can let our legal counsels discuss that with our bond counsel. That's an important thing to both lock in the rate and prevent all the other business related to this from getting screwed up. So, and it's very typical for places to pass that as part of common business practice. But anyways, I'll leave it to counsel as to when we want to talk in full about all of this, and I'll be around.
I think it's now.
Okay.
Give
me-
none of us have really had a chance to read it. So why
Okay.
don't we, why don't
No.
we schedule a finance committee meeting to have specifically that conversation,
Yes,
I read
right?
it.
happy to
Oh,
do that with
Look
everyone.
at you, Mr. Speed Reader.
It's only like 3 pages.
Huh?
Only like 3 pages.
Yeah,
I
the-
am
the-
God this morning, and I am not warmed up enough for comprehension.
Right, you sound like me. at
Hold
this
on.
Yeah, the most important thing is everyone warms up this morning is that the mayor will sign this to lock in our rates. It does not obligate the village, obviously, before you authorize everything after the third reading.
Okay, so a couple of things. I think we're gonna have like a lot of pushback that we're trying to pass $8 million as an emergency. So I definitely think we need to have a good justification when we do it, like a very succinct one. I think that's one of those things.
Yeah.
And a
The
very
other thing-
public one as well.
It is in the
Yeah, it's
ordinance,
very
book, so
public
I just
one.
want to point that
Very-
out,
yeah.
and I'll let the,
Yeah, It'll be
I'll let
listed in
bond
the
counsel tell
ordinance.
you.
It'll be
Yeah,
listed
but
in
we
the
need
ordinance.
to like,
the second-
have a statement or something like that makes me kind of nervous just because anything is an emergency. I mean, I understand that you want to lock in the rate. That makes total sense for sure, but $8 million is a scary number to a lot of people. The other thing too is I would like to see the comparisons of the other banks just so for transparency purposes, just so we know what the other banks offered us. Instead of just saying 3.77 is a good rate, which it is. I understand that, but not everybody, does a lot of financing or shopping around for that in this time frame. So I would like to at least have comparisons. So
We'll send
for
around another
transparency.
one that was prepared the other day. That's not a problem. You'll
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah.
You'll find that after the rates change, that it's not going to be possible to find anything below what we've got.
I understand that, but I just think that we should supply that information to the public.
Sure, you
Yep.
be happy to
Yeah.
do that.
That's all I'm saying with that.
I'm getting emails from residents saying that they're not comfortable with things being passed as emergencies as much as we do, as much as we do them. And again, I understand that things need to be passed sometimes. However, when it's almost everything, I mean, it just don't look good. And when it's something like this, I really just state why we're passing this as an emergency. And again, I need to understand this more. Exactly what does this mean? I mean, I'm not even going to like sugarcoat it. I do not, as I read through this, I do not understand exactly what this is saying. And I don't feel confident voting on anything that I don't understand what I'm voting on. Does that make sense?
Sure, we have multiple meetings. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so-
and the second, go ahead,
So
Brian.
for those who wish clarity, I'd urge you to show up to the Finance Committee meeting that I am going to propose. Finance Committee, I'm looking for this Wednesday. So that way we can have had this conversation before our Thursday council meeting. This Wednesday at 7, does that work for everybody on Finance Committee and anybody else who cares to show up?
Nikki. So my thing is, can we like not allot just a half hour to this? This is kind of really important. So
We can-
I'm glad that we're doing it, on a separate day, but yeah.
Yeah, I get off work at 7 that night, but I can swing right there. I'll be out 20 minutes,
We can
25
call
minutes late, but
We can call it 7:30 if that gives you a chance to even run through a drive-through on your way home.
What day are we doing this?
Wednesday,
13th.
the 13th.
I have an MPCA at 7, so I'll just stay on there till 7:30. So 7:30 actually works for me.
Does that work
okay,
for everybody?
as long as it's not influencing everyone else's days, that'd be preferable.
Fine by me.
Great. And the thing that I always like to point out, and I'm a big one on the emergency and waiving readings and all of that. To me, the waiving of the readings is much more detrimental than the emergency. The way I see this, and I could be totally different than everybody else, is residents have 3 opportunities to come in or email and raise a concern about doing something. When you don't have anybody raising a concern and you don't have anything, again, the things that we're passing as an emergency, if you go back and actually look at it, the things that you're doing are, approving employees and doing those types of things. Those can be 60 to 90 days before you actually get an employee in there. I think you really have to look at the big picture as to what you're passing as an emergency. The only thing the emergency does is starts it to where we can do it the next day after it's passed. So most times residents have already had 45 days to review the information and question the information. So it's the waiving of the readings that, you really, in my opinion, and everybody's different, in my opinion, is where you really have the information out there. That's why it's read on 3 separate or 2 separate if you waive 1 reading. But at the end of the day, and I'm just going to say this, I've not had 1 email nor 1 phone call with any concerns about how, and I usually I've not had it. So that is surprising to hear. But that's my opinion on the
I've had
emergency.
multiple.
The emergency just means we can do it the next day. So after it's passed, but again, you're doing multiple readings, giving people the opportunity to come in and say, this is what I'm concerned about. This is why I'm concerned. The things that I've heard on this particular thing is the total opposite of what I'm hearing, because everything that I have heard is we've been dealing with this and that was part of the presentation. This isn't a surprise to 95, 99% of the village at this point.
Village that's
aware that
active and
there's a building.
engaged at least,
Yeah. So
which should always be higher than it is.
yeah. So, and as far as the way that we're constructing this is in a way that's beneficial, which we'll talk about that with attorneys involved, financial advisors involved, our fiscal officers involved, all of which is way above anything I'm going to be able to tell you guys. So, I trust the fact that these are the people that we have hired to do this job way more than what I'm going to tell anybody, and Eric, don't take this wrong, but even what Eric says, I take their opinions and
No offense
all of
taken.
everything that they're doing.
Hey, I assume we're paying interest to MI Homes on that TIF loan. Do we know what the interest rate is on that?
We are not.
Is, no,
Oh, we're not?
It's not a TIF
No.
loan, right?
Okay.
So MI, in our agreement with MI, we told them we'd give them the first 4 million revenue received.
Okay.
and just to bring everything back on this, sorry, bad timing with the dog stuck out in the rain. Real quick, the MI also responded very positively. I expect to be able to shave off an additional, it could be 50, it could be $150,000 for a net present value. That conversation is ongoing. I forwarded their emails over to Mr. Wilczek, who is on board now, and he's going to do some verification, and then we will get a number from them. So we'll be able to shave off a little more off that. So the TIF's very important, I think, for everyone to understand that the purpose of the design was just for this moment in time in which we had, you can deal with this a couple different ways. The municipalities generally don't deal with it in waiting for all the money to accrue over a 30-year period. That just doesn't how it works. Typically, once the TIF generates, whether it's Columbus, Westerville, Obats, or whoever, they can prove that, and they go to their bond counsel like we have, and then they issue out a bond in the public market so they can use that money for the immediate service, or infrastructure building for the villages, and the cities. And so you are having the opportunity as this council to do what is standard business practice across Ohio. And I know there may be some iffiness with that number, But this isn't residential financing. This isn't doing your home mortgage. This is doing an institutional, infinite life type institution like the Village. And this is how we plan out and do these things. And I know some of the public will understand and some won't. But again, I will leave it to the other professionals, such as your bond counsel and your finance folks, to explain it. So, and we'll try to have bond counsel there on Wednesday.
So I have two questions. First, will our payments for this loan be more, will it eat up all of the TIF revenue in a year? So will there be a surplus of TIF revenue?
So the short answer is, well, you have a two-parter there. So the first part is no, it will not eat up all the TIF revenue. TIF revenue is projected to be around, right now, conservative around, I think my last number was 13 million over the 30. Well, we have 25 million, 25 years left, sorry. So we estimated it on I think a yearly basis around 500-ish thousand, but we expect that with, as everything improves, it gets up, property values and so forth in time, down the road, we see about 600,000 a year out of it or plus. So I think the short answer is no, we expect there to be more. And so there'll be a little bit of surplus, especially as we get deeper into the TIF, and it'll kind of recharge certain values.
And Eric, to that end, if I recall, in the calculations, there is a holdback, right? We have not
Correct.
in this obligated the entirety of the TIF revenue.
That is absolutely correct. They can't obligate the entire amount. Banks get nervous, right? Everybody, there has to be some risk mitigation, even for what are considered to be safe investments. And this is a standard practice.
Okay, so then the second question is, are we saving money? We're paying less on what we owe MI, or that's the goal, right? But now we're paying interest. Is it kind of a washout? Are we actually going to be spending more in the long run?
So if I can jump in here and give you the value that we're getting for the price of the interest is getting our jobs done.
Okay.
Right? So the value you're getting for that price of interest is you're actually getting a building renovated.
Sure.
We're actually going to get lakes dredged. With whatever's left over, we're actually going to do sidewalks and paths, or whatever we determine to do with the remainder that we can spend on infrastructure. That's what we get for the price of the interest. So sure, otherwise we could just wait 7 years for us to have MI paid off, and then wait another 5 years to have enough money to do the building saved up. And then after that, we could wait another 4 years to be able to dredge the lake. But we're 8 years out to 12 years out.
And I'm not talking about interest for the buildings. I'm talking about, if we owe MI $4 million, but we're getting it, we're paying them $3.5 million to kind of pay it out early. With the interest on that $3.5 million, is it still under that $4 million?
Don't forgive me, Jason. I probably don't. I don't know if I understand the question completely in the sense of how.
Are we
think about
losing money on
financing.
taking out a loan?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's done. Again, I know this is hard. It's different when you're working with an institutional situation versus your mortgage. And I would leave this more complicated question to the finance advisor and to try to simplify it in a way that everyone can understand. It might be better for the public too. But I think Brian's example is the best in this case, in which you have to look at interest as the opportunity cost to get something done. And I think that's a very valid point. And we are going to be paying below market rate since we managed to lock this in, or a bank First Merchant managed to lock it in, which is kind of a semi-miracle. Just so everyone knows that I engaged another independent bond guy in order to get a comparison, because I was a little nervous about what was going on with, just our initial, I wasn't sure if First Merchant was going to come through, but I also, it's always good to have a comparison. He came back and he said, Eric, he's been doing this for 30 years. And he said, I'm going to have a hard time. If you get something below 4, you take it. He said, I'm having a hard time now getting things between 5 and 6. 5%. So just everyone needs to understand that this deal is going to be the best on the table. I'll send around
Mhm.
the other gentleman's email so you can kind of see what he pulled, but it's,
Eric, if you,
Yes, sir.
if you send me the information you have from MI regarding what they'll take for net present value, I can have the comparison numbers for Jason
Yes.
Wednesday. But I mean, I think that what we need to understand is that we can't do any of this unless we pay off MI.
yes,
So
correct.
even if it's, even if on the MI side of things, we are on a whole paying more than 4 million to get MI out of the picture, we can't proceed with the building or the lakes until MI is out of the picture. So
Yeah, that was our agreement.
that's how it goes. But I can certainly do the math and tell you what the difference is.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Once Jeff verifies, basically both sides have to verify that they agree to what number is owed. And MI has presented us with what, they believe their receipts are. Jeff is, since he's getting his feet wet this week, he's going to check those numbers and he's going to verify it. I expect that to be fairly straightforward. And I expect then that once that's done, MI will then present back to us, what their rates and information is, and Jeff will push back if it's not at least a certain rate. So
So we haven't agreed on a discount rate
no, we
yet.
have not agreed on a rate and number just yet. We're going to get there.
And the
right,
last
thank you.
part to all of that is it's not just about interest rates. We've watched pricing go up in the last year, 2 years, 3 years for construction costs. So at the end of the day, just as Brian was saying, it's not just about the interest. It's about the fact that if you wait 5 years for a new building, what has it done just in the last 2 years? And same thing with the lake dredging. We have looked into lake dredging, and I have prices from what it was in 2018. And you're significantly higher. So again, wait 5 more years, and even if we get some great OPWC loan or something like that, the cost of the project is going to out-eat anything this 3%, 3.77% is going to do. And being in real estate and watching these construction loans and all these things, yeah.
Yeah, I
they're-
mean, I
they're
agree with
way
you.
over. Yeah.
I think we have to consider the fact that, this is a tough pill to swallow in a lot of ways, but if inflation is 7%, we're getting a 3.77 rate on that loan, then technically, we're not really losing a lot on it. And just to be clear, Brian, what you were saying was that, do we get more money from the TIF based on property values? Is that correct?
Correct.
The underlying way that a TIF works, right, is
Yeah.
the day that those properties that are in the TIF, right, those parcels, the day that we entered into the TIF, there was a baseline of their tax value.
Okay, and if it goes up,
Well, let me go ahead and finish, right? So yes, so you are correct. As it goes up, right, that difference, the increment of increase is what the tax amount that is directed to the TIF fund.
okay, so basically
So-
what your thought process is, just, I'm trying to summarize all of this. Your thought process is if we do improve the village, property values go up faster because our village is better and it's awesome, obviously. And we could potentially benefit from extra TIF money that way.
No,
No.
that's not really part of my calculation at all.
Well,
Okay.
if I may, if the property value goes up from 300 to 400,000 on any of these
Yeah.
buildings that were already brought in there, that margin of increase also increases your TIF
Right,
value
but
that
that's-
comes in.
Right.
That's what I'm,
But that's
yeah,
not
that's what
why
I'm
we're doing
referring
it.
yes to.
But that's
Okay.
not why we're doing these projects.
No, that is correct.
Okay,
Yeah. The purpose, folks, the purpose of a TIF, when TIFs are set up, as the former council set this one up, is to take advantage of Ohio law that allows a city or village to find infrastructure or other forms of money to, supply new buildings, new sewers, new, plants, whatever you want to put into your village or city. And it's a legal way to redirect property taxes into the village coffers. School in this case is whole, so they don't suffer from that. And so that's why it doesn't affect, your folks are already all paying the exact same property taxes that are approved on the ballot. Nothing changes. It simply is a different revenue stream in which it doesn't touch income tax or your general fund. And this allows you to do these kind of one-off special projects, right? whether it's a new interstate, whether it's a new building like we're doing, there's a unique window of opportunity. And that was the purpose of the design of this TIF, because folks in the past understood that, took their legal counsel's advice, put it in there, and now it's generating. And now this is the window in which we need to get something done. That's the basis of it.
And real quick, just because there was a lot of talk about the interest and why the interest, this or that. When I was listening to Jason, kind of what I heard from him saying is not, oh my goodness, all this interest, but rather how much of a lessening of our final payback to MI would sort of almost cover the interest on this and make it sort of like, oh, it's almost like, you know, okay, so we're going to get the $8 million, but have to spend $500,000 on interest payments. But if we get $500,000 knocked off what we're paying, then we can even tell people, hey, by doing this, we're negating some of the interest because we're saving money over here. Is that what you were trying to get at, Jason?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to.
Yeah.
We're nowhere. If you're talking about on overall financing, we're nowhere near that.
Yeah,
So,
because
we should
8
just-
million over 25 years is going to be a lot of interest,
Yeah.
even at a 3.77.
Yeah,
That said, it's a good chunk. I mean,
Yeah.
but he is in the right thinking. It is still
Yeah.
going to be a good chunk that we're getting a discount that we would.
Yeah, and
not-
that is
we would
that
not
is
have
just
gotten.
something we can put out there as like,
Mhm.
yeah, and by doing this, we're actually saving some money here.
Correct.
Yes, this is going to cost us more money in the long run, but
Right.
So
we're being as responsible, blah, 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 as possible.
So if I may, so I think the important thing to note is you can either wait for your money to accrue, right,
Right.
over a course of years, or you pay a certain interest rate to take your money now, right?
Right.
It's the cost of getting your money now. Money is always worth more today than it is 20 years from now, as an example, right? That's the reason MI is giving us a discount to get their money now, because they would rather have it now than wait 5 or 6 years to get it. Okay, so that's
Right.
a very important point about the way that interest rates worked in the front end and the back end, right? So
Mm.
it's not a loss of money, especially from an institutional standpoint. You're getting, you're getting things that everyone needs and nobody wants to wait, as Brian pointed out. You don't want to wait 7 more years to have your building built. By then, your opportunity cost of 3% for that money over 7 years is going to be, that would have been a win if you had taken it today versus waiting 7 years with construction costs and inflationary increases that we're already seeing in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So no amount of interest is going to overcome what you're going to see in the next few years. So
Can you run those numbers though? Like, I'm a visual person, so seeing that.
sure.
sounds
And
great,
I
but
think
run
what
those numbers.
yeah, when we have a few things, so I will talk to our finance folks and see what they can provide on the fly from our examples. And maybe that'll be helpful. It's one of those things that, in my experience, it's tough. I'm going to just say this. It's tough for members of the public to understand institutional financing. It works. Many places do it. In fact, I would say they all do it here in Central Ohio. And you can look at their communities and see the results of how that, what that is. So,
think
but
I'm
I'll
gonna
ask them to
say-
put it together.
I'm
So,
going to say something. I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I think it's also, I think people want a big picture and people want big numbers. But if we did these projects as multiple individual projects, for example, the lakes and the building, there's going to be interest assessed on all of those. And as we've been talking with everybody, we don't know that we would get, if we were just doing a building, 3.77. So just keep that in mind, that when we get ready to go to the lake and have that done, that interest rate could be 5%. That interest rate could be 4%. I mean, we don't know what those would be. So giving a big picture of what are we saving and what are we spending, we aren't comparing what the interest rate would be on just for the building and just for this. We know that this interest rate, doing a multi, from everything, we're getting a really good interest rate. But I think everybody wants to see a big picture, and that's impossible to do because we're not breaking these projects apart to know what the interest rate would be if we were to wait a year, 2 years, 3 years. So also just keep that in mind. We're going to get as many numbers as we possibly can by asking them, but trying to predict something that we're not really doing is also going to be a little difficult as well. So we'll get everything that we can.
Yeah.
Have we tried to look for numbers for just the building previously? Do we have that data at all? Like, have we shopped around for just getting the building financed?
So if I may, so you're going through the first process of getting this particular project financed, right? The only other example in this village is when we attempted to purchase the building at 2999, and that was a different time and a different product, right? And in that particular case, we did not proceed down that full path because it was not, it just wasn't allowed. It was referendum at that point. However, this is, again, when we say comparative purposes, the financing runs part and parcel. You have to take your financing when the opportunity presents itself. This is the opportunity. You will not, and it's not just from my mouth, you can hear it from your other professionals, your bond counsel's mouth. You won't get another opportunity quite like this one. Just like the first building, whether you agree with it or not, there won't be another opportunity for that for probably another decade or 20, and you're never going to see that price that we agreed to at that moment in time, right? And so that was passed on. Because
I understand all of that.
Hold on,
but,
I'm not, if I may finish my example, we want to go ahead and just point out that when we get the financing, we're going through the process of getting the bids for the building, right? So we're going to go through another process of that. And this runs part and parcel with that process, but they are separate. And when the windows of opportunity present themselves, I urge you to take them, as we learned from the last example in this very village. And I urge you to consider, although this may make you uncomfortable, this is standard business. And it's not just me that's going to tell you this. I'll let the attorneys and the professionals tell you this. And it'll be obviously the 6 members' choice as to whether you proceed forward. But this is going to be, I'm just going to say it starkly out front, this is going to be your cheapest opportunity for the foreseeable future.
So my issue is, I understand all of that, but it's more of like a trust but verify situation where, when somebody comes to you and says, trust me, this is a good deal, great, but like, show me the numbers, show me the work that you did in order to prove to me that this is in fact a good deal. I believe
will show you the numbers.
7 based on mortgage rates sounds great, but I want to see comparisons just to know that we're not taking our first deal. And I understand that, but I just want to see it on paper in order to justify that to the villagers as well.
Right.
So that's my thing. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I want to see all those numbers. So that's what I'm asking ahead of time. Hey, we should get all our ducks in a row and have this information available, because I am positive I won't be the only one.
And here's the second part to this. There are so many banks that we reached out to, including myself, Fifth Third, Huntington. They won't even do this loan for 25 years. So as another comparison, I want to make sure that I know it's on the record multiple times, but this is also something that you can't even get everywhere else. And if it's shorter term, the payment's going to be higher, which is difficult for us. The last part to all of this, I had something to say that when it came to all of this, hang on, I got to think about it. Oh my God, my mind totally went blank on this. Okay, so just going back to the question, did we look individually on the building and, when we did this, the numbers and everything? And this isn't me being a brat trying to say this. This is why we hired the attorney. This is why we did hire a financial advisor. This is why we brought multiple people in to give us an overall view of, this is what you should be doing. This is what we recommend you do. This is what this entire team of people have put together. Some of us have a little bit of background. I'm in real estate. I know Brian knows numbers. I'm always impressed at some of the things that he does, but that's not what we do for a living. That's why we hire the professionals and we bring them in and say, here's our big picture. What should we be doing? That is what we've done. So we did this based on, should we just finance the building? Should we? Those were all of the discussions that we had. And at the end of the day, this is how they came back with the information. And again, they were working with our fiscal officer. They were on the phone calls with us at the beginning. So again, we've hired these people to come in and say, after looking at everything, this is what we would recommend that you guys do.
So as long as we have those recommendations and those numbers are broken down, I would feel comfortable with it. Again,
Yes.
currently at this point, that's what my concern is. that I don't have enough information presented to me. I'm assuming that on Wednesday, it will be a lot better. But what I'm asking ahead of time is that those numbers are broken down. The reason I asked about the building separately is I want to compare like, hey, look, financing the building separately is in fact going to be more expensive just because even for a smaller amount of loan, they're going to give us a higher percentage rate and we're going to use that money in other places anyway. So I just want to see all of that information so that way we can kind of present it to everybody and be transparent.
I
Yeah,
have the original paperwork, I believe, from Huntington and all of that, that would only go 20 years. Again, those were probably 6, 8, 9 months ago. So those interest rates obviously do not exist anymore. But let me also see if I can just find those, because if I can find those, I can give you an idea of what that was. And if we need to have them rerun it, updated, because again, that was several months ago. But let me see if I can at least find those, Eric.
I just think it would be really good to still at least just kind of
Yes.
dip your foot in the water and
Yeah.
just show to everybody, hey, this is like what the climate is for the people that don't know about it or don't even want to know about it. Like, it's important to at least make sure and prove to everybody that we're making an informed decision. That's my thing. I don't-
absolutely. We'll have town council and finance advisor put something together that I think will be helpful.
And in
Detailed. I
fairness,
like
I do understand where you're coming from when some of these people got 2.5%, 3% interest rates on their MI homes that they just bought 2 years ago, or even in the old section. I think some people still may have that in their mind that this is what the interest rate should be, because this is what I just got a year or two ago and they don't exist anymore. So I do get it. I think you're going to have some people go, oh, wait, that's really high, when it's ultimately not.
And I want to make sure I have everything. I have the information and I did my homework to be able to justify that vote. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I think let's put a pin in that. Eric and Mayor Hughes, I think you've heard councilperson's costs and concerns. Anything that you guys can have available for Wednesday night would be helpful. Yeah, I think we have definitely gone further in that one than needed, especially with the meeting coming up. But that does bring us back to councilperson costs for anything you'd like to let us know about what's going on with streets.
Streets, they started doing the assessment because they had a gap in their schedule, so they were able to fit us in. I have not heard anything about what the assessment resulted in, but they did do some work, so that's really exciting. In regards to that, the pipe is still back ordered. I saw a couple emails back and forth that it should come in around June and go from there.
Cool, excellent, thank you. Councilperson Camera, what's going on with community?
All right, so pool registration opened up this past week. I think we have about 31 people already signed up for the pool, already
Wow.
registered, so pretty good start. Yeah, so far some pretty good feedback there that I've heard at least. And I just want to say thank you to Barb. I know she's not on here, but she's done a lot this past week. I know it was a little nerve-wracking at first to kind of get used to some new software, but she's done a great job with that. We did discuss at our last community meeting that we're planning a celebration for Memorial Day weekend. I don't know how to put it. A kickoff party maybe is a good way to put it for the pool. We're going to sell concessions that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we're going to have a cookout on Sunday, I think is what we decided. Is that right? Sunday?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
We
to the
kept
best of
going
my
back and
memory.
forth. All right, so we're going to have a cookout. I think we're getting a new grill. Is that correct?
We already got it, yes.
We got a new grill, so that's fantastic. We'll be able to use it at the pool and at the village community building if we need to. And then we're looking into some merch right now, just some things, useful pool items that you might need while you're down there that are labeled Minerva Park. Yes, Tiffany.
Okay, before I forget, sorry, and I know you're on a roll. Before we order anything, the biggest things, because I know that we've got the approval to do this. Number one, if we need a company credit card, you just reach out to me.
Mhm.
If we can get them to bill us, that again, depending on who we go through, that's always preferred. And
Okay.
number two, we have to make sure that it's tax exempt when we go to order it. And sometimes you just pay for it reach out to them and then they adjust the tax. But that is so important. I cannot make anybody understand that. So I'm saying that right now before anybody, if anybody pays for it with their own credit card and they get reimbursed minus the tax. So just be careful when we get ready to order, or just reach out to us, and we'll make sure that we either do it the correct way or walk you through being able to figure out exactly what we need to do. So I just did not want to forget that,
No,
or
no,
Leah will beat us.
no problems there.
Yeah, when I used to work for a grocery store, they had all kinds of forms and tax exempt stuff. It was a whole ordeal. So it'd be better to do it correctly the first time.
Correct.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I've spent a good portion of my career working for tax exempt organizations,
go.
so I'm
Yeah.
very
Awesome.
familiar with that.
Sweet.
But yeah, we're looking at what kind of merch we can do right now. So again, things are looking good for the pool season. And then we have had several discussions about Diversity Week, or as I learned later, it was probably more weekend or day, but we're celebrating for a week. It's going to go from June 6th, which I think is that Sunday. Is that the Sunday? Anyways, it's the first Sunday in June through the next Saturday.
June 4th.
We have some activity. Thank you. We have some activities planned. Just some fun little things to celebrate the community. Nothing major. David's kind of taken on that role of kind of putting some stuff together for that. So some good things coming up. I do have a question for the council, and this kind of goes back to the funding, unfortunately. We've gone back and forth about lake cleanup because we're not sure, do we need lake cleanup this year if we're going to be dredging the lake? So I'm not sure. I think we have some work to do on getting some bids out.
Timing.
Right? Yeah.
So I can go over timing real quick, just to give you a general idea. So let's assume that in April here, you pass the funding, which is great. That's what our hope is. We'll be able to then engage your engineers who've been waiting for multiple years. I know it'll make Mike thrilled to be able to start work on a lake plan. That's going to take some months. And then obviously it has to go through a public bid process too. So I would tell you in reality, based on, again, our own experience so far, as well as the rest of Central Ohio, probably plan on major work for the lake starting next spring at earliest.
All right, perfect. So then we'll start to kind of plan something for lake cleanup. I think that's kind of the big stuff right now with community. So, yes.
A couple questions on some of the stuff you were mentioning. You were mentioning the Memorial Day big weekend pool jam. So on some days we're going to be setting up and selling concessions, and then you said you were going to have a cookout. Is that going to be like what's Mahiget, the night out with the police used to be like just stop by and grab a burger, or is that going to be like stop by and the burgers are $1 because $1 covers our costs?
Yeah, I think
Makes sense.
we are looking to cover the cost of the burgers. It's not free.
Okay.
However, we have talked about anyone that comes to the pool opening weekend that they get a little free gift of merch that promotes the village. So I think we're looking at a car magnet that says something about Minerva Park Pride. Any other questions? Okay.
We probably have to approve that through council, the design.
The design.
And pass that ordinance.
Safety Committee, Councilperson McNamara.
Well, there has been no major updates from the police. I know they're still looking into new camera and data storage systems, but I've not heard an update on that. I'm gonna, next time I run into the chief, I'm gonna see if I can get a breakdown or description of their process on like how they spend their day patrol wise. There's been a couple instances apparently of the perception of a decreased presence, which again, I can't confirm or deny, but I can pass on the desire for an increased community presence from people. This kind of goes back to community because the contact person must still have me as community. Last week, I signed and sent back the Warm Kids Lunch Club for summer that will be taking place behind the Hawthorne Elementary School, to the best of my knowledge, for another year. It went off without a hitch last time, and apparently I'm still their contact person. So, Councilperson Camera, that is one thing off your plate. Backs back and everything. But yeah, I sent an email out to Monica as well about collaboration with MPCA for the diversity planning stuff, predominantly over the course of a weekend. But yeah, I am awaiting a response as of now, but I only sent it out a couple days ago after our community meeting. Excellent to hear about the girl though. So yeah, nothing major. Next time I see the chief, I will see if there's anything major update wise that needs to be disseminated to the community, or any issues that have come up people need to be aware of.
Right. Very good. Then that brings us to Legislative Committee. Councilperson Bruegger, any updates? And then we can go through, roll right into legislation on the agenda.
Right, it's looking pretty light. Eric, I'm gonna ask you my question I always ask. Any movement on them flags? Oh, we lost Eric.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my button. I apologize.
That's all right.
So the flags, yeah, just so we can bring that around, we have been working, it's actually a good time for an update. We have been working with staff, attorney, P&Z Chair Oxender, and Councilman Wolf through a couple of meetings. We go through the zoning, original technical review of the zoning code, chapter 12, and we're moving on to chapter 14 when we have our next meeting. P&Z has been updated on that. So long story short, the flags are going to get, and the sign code is going to kind of get reworked back into the rewrite of the zoning code. So that's where we're at with that.
Awesome. All right, so let's look at Thursday's legislative agenda then there. Our first thing, 06-2022, an ordinance allocating funding for construction and improvement of the Village Amphitheater project and declaring an emergency. This is actually our third reading of it. And we know what this is, guys. This is up to $100,000 with a matching grant from Ohio Facilities Constructions Commission. We've already talked about to some extent why passing it as emergency is so we can actually get that money appropriated and moved on our part, because the state won't match our funds until we show that we're serious about committing our funds. They won't commit their funds first.
And just a quick add on to that, Councilman, this is an if-then type ordinance for allocation. This is related to you passing the larger TIF fund. So the money that comes out of the infrastructure fund for that will go into this one, and the state is, will be good with that with all likelihood.
Gotcha. So if we don't get that big loan, we're not going to pull out of our current general revenue or accounts to cover this.
Do we?
Thank you. I did not, I'm sure you had said that before and I forgot it. So thank you for the reminder there, Eric.
Has that been priced out? Do we have bids yet on that?
Yeah, so we have, in order to get to this point, we had to do a number of pricing on, it's a small project, so there's just a few items to it. There's a small bit of clearing right behind the existing stonework. You have to clear that out. There's a few small trees. We're going to preserve the bigger tree to the right. But we're going to clear out the dirt that allows then the mason to get in there. He's going to have to, we have to get since we quoted him last year, he's going to re-quote us, but that should be around between $6,000 and $9,000 for that section, depending on what he finds. He's a pretty stable guy from his wage standpoint. He's just very busy, obviously. Beyond that, then there's also some other small things to do, like putting up a little more fencing. There'll have to be some pathway improvement at the top, where we have to contribute some money for like an ADA parking area, since we're not designing it for people to go down and around. That gets much more expensive for this stage. There'll be more money down the road. And then the other part is getting electrical work done. So that's a large part of it. So that'll all add up to somewhere, once we finalize all of this, between 75 and 85,000. So it'll be under 100, and the state matches half. And then we also get to toss in some hours for myself and the mayor based on our salaries. And so that's an in-kind, and the state matches are in-kind as well. So we ended up being a little bit, like a 40, 45, 55, where we're paying in hard cash 45, state pays in 55%, so to speak. So essentially that's how the reimbursement will work, but it is related to your overall project financing for the TIF stream.
When would that project start?
Well, again, that one can start pretty fast because it's a small one. If the council approves the TIF in April, we will probably get approval in May-ish by the state, because we have to formally submit everything at that point, May to June, and then we'll get started on that right away, because I'm going to pre-schedule the Mason sometime, late June is what I'm going to kind of just get him on the books for. And then we'll be able to get that completed between June to September, based on the various timings and, components.
Cool, nice.
Okay, so now for the big one. 07/2022, if you're following along in your packet. I'm not going to bother reading the title of this, it is too big. I know I have to read it in the meeting, but not necessarily in our work section. And this is the TIF financing loan.
Yep. And I think there's a small correction on that. Mayor, correct me, maybe I missed this. I don't think we meant to waive all the readings.
No.
I think,
I was
Right.
about to bring that up.
Yeah, that
Currently
was
it
not the
listed
intent.
As waiving all the readings.
no. I think we intend to be able to get 3 readings at the minimum in April, or you can have it through first, meeting in May. Either way, you'll be there.
My thought was to add a meeting on that third Thursday. So 3 Thursdays in a row just for legislation, which we've done in the past. If council is on board and willing and able to, again, it would just be for a reading. So we would just need 4. But again, I really don't want to waive readings for any of this. I want to give people ample time to ask questions or do anything that they want. So that said, we are trying to get it done by the end of April would be great. It doesn't have to be that Thursday. It could be any day. So if you guys want to start thinking about whether or not you guys can do that Thursday, I would like to once again get it posted. So, the transparency is out there. We're not trying to rush this. I really don't want to do it 3 days in a row or anything like that. I want to keep it spread out to where we have plenty of time.
Try to read things 3 days in a row. Come on.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not pointing. I want to give people ample time because again, we are looking to do it as an emergency for the fact that we are, I would rather do it as an emergency than to waive readings.
Mayor, I think Brian was just giving himself a hard time.
I
right
know
there.
he
I was
was,
just
but I didn't mean it like
occasionally-
that.
Occasionally I like to rib other people. Occasionally I like to rib myself. Look, I'm an equal opportunity guy.
Yeah, there's trying to, give people, again, time to ask questions, email. They're more than welcome to stop into the community building. We can explain it, but I think the finance meeting, we're not going to go into this. I think the finance meeting will really help. So. So,
Okay,
yeah, the
and
goal
so
would
I'm
be
going to
to
leave most of the discussion for this unless anyone has an objection for the finance meeting. I know we've talked about this a lot this morning already, to the point where we kind of are at, well, I want this, and that, and it's okay, give us a couple days to get it. I don't think that's been gotten in the past 15 minutes. So without objection, I'm just going to move on to the next piece of legislation.
Perfect.
Okay. Now we're into just day-to-day operation stuff. 2022-09. Oh, no, we're not, because we have 2022-09 is amending the fee schedule and declare an emergency so that we can start reflecting current practices. I don't have first, second, third reading dates written on this.
I don't know why that keeps, this is like our third, I'm almost positive this is our third reading. We wanted to talk about it
Right.
today, for the fact that one of the big things was the $27 a box. It's $27 a box each way. That's not the only thing that's changed on there. I'm gonna show you something else that I just talked to Chief about. And I'll explain why. And those are the adjustments on there, but, I know some people had a
Yeah, the
concern
special
about
duty
charging
officer, it
residents
looks like.
for the boxes. We're not trying to charge them for all of it. We are just trying to recoup some of our outgoing on the boxes. Again, it's $27 each way, so we are looking to charge $27 a box if it has to be pulled from whatever it's called. It's not fireproof anymore. They changed it, but I'm gonna call it fireproof because that's the only thing I can think of. So that's on there. If you look at the police department, that was an old number on there. $55 an hour is pretty much the going rate for special duty. The reason that I wanted to get that adjusted before pool season, we have already had people reaching out to rent the pool. And in the event that and you guys may not like this, but depending on the type of event, I do believe that there needs to be police presence down there. And I think if there's a certain amount of people, there needs to be police presence down there. So we are working, Barb, once again, has been helping. She's been controlling it. She's been working on a form for people that are renting the pool, because we don't have a good form that talks about all of that in there. If there's a certain amount of people, they have to have a certain amount of lifeguards. So police has been adjusted to the going rate of special duty for that. And that is in the fee schedule.
Yeah, and that's the $55 an hour special duty change, $20 per delivery for retrieval.
And we
And
changed that
then
from,
Certainly,
did
the
change that.
non-controversial thing is just the $500 right-of-way permit. That is just covering the cost of what it does to do that.
and FYI, we did change the wording the way that we had the boxes in there. Now it's just flat $27, period, not any free one. Nobody gets any, it's $27. If a box has to be retrieved. And they would be aware of that before. Like if we knew we didn't have it, we would obviously let them know and then let them make the decision. You know, do you want it? Do you want to,
It's listed at 28 on the,
or 28? It's whatever it's on there
okay.
is
I just
correct. 'Cause
wanted-
we were working on it together. So again, that's up to you guys. If you guys want it adjusted before the Thursday meeting, that's what we came up with making sure it was okay with Jesse. But again, if you guys don't want to charge for it, we don't charge for it. If you guys want to charge something else and charge the full $50, 50 some, 60, whatever, that's up to, this is just our starting point to bring to you guys.
I'm okay with charging, and I don't think that it is. Well, the number is the number, whatever. I'm not that concerned. Just I want to make sure the language is clear. So in the fee schedule that's attached to the packet, it says $28 per delivery. So if I came in and made a request for something that was record stored in 12 different boxes, but altogether, it sounds to me like that would be one delivery, but you keep on referencing boxes.
I do believe it is per deliver. Eric, you and I think, are the ones that are going back and forth. I will verify. I believe it's $3 or something like that to pull each box, but I do believe the delivery is only $28 or whatever it is each way. I will verify that before Thursday, and I will have it on there correctly if it is per box or if it is per delivery, but I do think it is on the legislation correct. I've had a long week. I believe it is the 28 per delivery. We're not charging the $3
I thought that
and all
was
of that.
also correct, Mayor.
Okay.
Then I'm okay. And then my only other thought on this is that maybe it's time for our Records Retention Commission to gather and, really get rid of a lot of these things that, I feel like we shouldn't have that much in cold storage.
If I can detail a little bit of that. So part of the new building obviously is we have a records room. So a lot of this will be brought in-house, which will save everybody money, both for residents requesting as well as us for storing long-term. A lot of our records there, which aren't the ones being requested, are police cold storage police records, which we have to maintain, unfortunately, well, I guess for the better good, forever. right? But there's a significant amount of, there was a large purge during my time a few years ago by former clerk Becky and Leah. And they went through the zoning stuff, and everything from a permit standpoint, eliminated a lot of stuff. Now, there's a lot of boxes down there, and it's not unusual when you have decades of records, you have this built up. It just happens, okay? Purge, maybe, but unfortunately, a lot of your stuff, I think, you have to maintain by law for a permanent time period. So a lot of that'll be relieved once we have a room dedicated to it. So we're looking forward to it.
No state agency we can pawn that police stuff off on.
I don't know, and I don't think so. It's good times there. They don't want it either.
David, maybe safety committee can look to see if there's a state agency we can pawn the police records off to.
Ooh, that'd be a good idea.
And yes, that was done about 2 years ago, and we have been talking about going and doing it again. And there's more of a reason as to why, and I'll just give you the quick version. When they switched from Fireproof to the new company, some things were relabeled differently, and we have found that some of the things that we think are in one box is not actually in that box. They're there, but when they renumbered, we don't know that they renumbered the exact same way that we expected them to. So there's some things that we do need to go and do that. We have not done it. And then this is just an FYI, and I don't know that you guys know this or remember this, but we have actually been doing what we're supposed to be doing. We have had our records commission meeting already once this year. We did do it at the end of last year. We have been on schedule. We have been doing our records commission meetings because we had some stuff for EMS that we needed to go through. So the village is actually up to date on having the correct meetings and making sure that we are in line with what we need to be doing.
Very cool. All right, are we at the end of legislation?
We are not. Now I think we're into the humdrum stuff, 2022-13, affirming the appointment of Tammy Phillips as a full-time police lieutenant for the village.
Did you miss one? I think you missed 2022-12.
Oh, yeah, we have another one. We have Matthew Clark as a full-time police officer. And we're not rushing this at all. We'll probably end up passing it as an emergency when we get to the end of it. Once again, it's just a hiring thing. But it's not, we're doing our 3 readings, same with the lieutenant. So there's 2 police officers that we are confirming that we hired.
Yeah, they're at their 6 months. So once we get to the 6 month, end of the 6 month probation, this is what we do. So yes, they already work there. They've been there for 6 months, no issues, no problems. So be ready for that, David. And then, but yes, that's all this is. This is just procedural documents.
Oh, I'm well aware about that. I actually had the chance to go down and meet and talk to both the 2 of them. I am more than comfortable of the proceedings. They both seem real solid.
Yeah, I just want to say I did meet Lieutenant Phillips one time, and I had a really positive experience, so I'm pretty excited. I think she's just very wonderful.
Yes.
All right, and so that looks like that gets us to the bottom of legislation on the agenda. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to bring to our attention regarding old business? How about regarding new business?
For our finance meeting on Wednesday, are we doing this on Zoom?
I guess we did not discuss that. I am open to in-person or Zoom, whatever people are more comfortable with.
And on that note, I again, we have to talk to the attorneys and stuff. I think it's easier if we're getting a bunch of them together to do a Zoom, but we can check first and make a final decision.
You know what? Yeah, why don't we do Zoom? Because if it's easier to get some of our constituent professionals engaged in the call, then let's do Zoom. I don't want to breathe your air anyways.
Yeah.
All right, any other new business? Does
I'd like
anybody
to
have
introduce
anything?
something at the
Oh.
finance meeting. It should be pretty brief. It's just something I've been musing about for some time.
All right, well, we will, I mean, if you want to just give a quick elevator pitch, and we can make sure that that's the right time and place, and then we can.
It's the price, lock-in for services that residents pay on our fee list. I remember I brought it up last month in legislation. You told me to take it to finance. So
Got it. Yep.
I've got a list of, starred things that, people pay, but, agencies or, construction
Right,
stuff
what you're
doesn't.
saying is, yeah, I remember now, this is passing legislation that would indicate that we wouldn't raise fees at a rate beyond inflation.
Yeah, inflation, CPI, whatever the
Whatever
best,
indexes.
or whichever the best metric for that is.
I will, if I can be entirely honest, I
Yeah.
think we have bigger fish to fry in this particular finance committee meeting. But
Okay.
it is on the finance committee's radar and we would discuss it in the future. I just think that this conversation is going to be all TIF revenue financing all day long.
And that's completely understandable because it'll save the people of our village more money in the long term. I just don't want it to go
Yeah.
completely by the wayside.
Yeah, no, definitely have not forgotten about that.
Well, you'll have no argument from me then.
All right, then that sounds good. Then anybody have anything they'd like to bring up about adjourning? All right, then I move that we adjourn. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.